right, it's back-to-back game day here on Real Kyper and Bourne. This is the Leaf Hour edition of our show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandale, Jake the Snake Schultz. Here to dissect it all. We are live on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet 360, and Sportsnet Plus. Let's welcome him in from a very busy day. He was on assignment, started at the morning skate with your family, JB. Yeah. Glad to have you back on board.
Yeah. Thanks for holding down the fort yesterday, guys. I had a great day. Thanks to you guys for doing that. Thanks to the Maple Leafs for helping my brother and his wife have a good experience yesterday. Yeah, no, it was all good things. And all I have to say about the hockey game was I'm glad we get another one tonight. It's a palate cleanser because,
let me ask.
It's not the perfect end of the day.
Now that the Leafs were so sweet to you and they took your brother around and his brother's wife and you got lots of pictures, lots of players, you're going to come on and be like, God, they played great last night. There's just a couple spots last night where they could have been a little better, but I thought overall it was a good
Nearly a flawless show last night, in my opinion. I'll hear no rebuttals to that.
All right, before we get into great detail of what we saw last night and what we can expect tonight, we had a bit of a conversation here, and my guy, Sammy here, almost like laughed me out of the show yesterday because I suggested that this was going to be a little bit maybe of a coming out party for the Ottawa Senators to get back into a Battle of Ontario, and he just laughed at me. He just said, you're making a bigger deal out of the game. And I'm like, Ottawa's going to come out, and they're going to make a statement here. And he laughed at me.
Sam?
If that's the version of the events you want to live in, that's fine. What I said was that I was scoffing at the fact that the Battle of Ontario is big and that it's a big game and that the first game between these two teams in November is a really big game. I didn't think it was that big a game. I didn't. And
I think today it feels like it was a big game.
Well, I think one team thought it was a really big game and the other team didn't. And I'll let you guess which is which, but I think it's pretty easy to figure out.
So I based it all on JB at watching the Montreal Canadiens embarrass themselves here Saturday night. Good on them. They went down to Buffalo. They found a way to get 2 points, hopefully turn things around. But I'm like, Ottawa knows the Montreal Canadiens laid an egg. They came in here last night, and it was a fork in the road for me into the season. Yep. You want to send a message that you want to play with the big boys in the Atlantic Division with the Boston, or maybe not the Boston Bruins, but Tampa, Toronto, and Florida, then you show you're closer to those guys than you are the Montreal Canadiens and maybe Detroit and Buffalo. Yeah,
we wake up today, Kip, and the Ottawa Senators are 4 points behind the Leafs with 2 games in hand. They got a better goal differential. They got themselves kind of back into the fight a little bit, and I'll say it was not even close last night watching that game from the jump. What stood out to me is a stat that I heard before the game started. So Pinto, Norris, and Stützle have been together for a while, but when they're all in the team, they've only actually all been in the lineup 20% of the time.
Yeah.
And when they're all in the lineup, they play at a 106-point pace as a team. They win a lot.
And Pinto was out for, I think, 8 or 9 games.
Yep, he missed 41 last year with the gambling stuff. So they get them all in. They have all their centers, and they were ready for a game that the Leafs were not last night. And I think waking up here today, Allmark gets a shutout. It's tough not to look at the Sens and say, playoff team. That looks like a playoff team to me.
I made the observation last night on Leafs Talk, and I'll make it here again. There's no comparison between the forward course last night for me in terms of whose was better, deeper, faster, stronger, more lethal. Like, they came in here, and you look at the Leafs decor, I think the Leafs decor as a whole is probably better, but without Austin Matthews, without Max Pacioretty, there is no comparison between the forward course right now.
Sheesh.
Right now?
Throwing Patch in there too, eh?
Well, the reason I'm throwing him in there is because you have to play a third line of Connor Dewar, Nick Robertson, and Pontus Holmberg, who gives you absolutely nothing. Fourth line, they're trying to hit or whatever. So if Nylander and Marner don't have it, which I think it's pretty fair to say neither of them were very good last night, then what do you have? You have nothing. Like, the secondary scoring is supposed to be McMahon, supposed to be Robertson, Holmberg, these guys that are supposed to Domi, guys that are supposed to chip in, they ain't, and that's what it looks like. So
Noah Gregor, Shane Pinto, Michael Amadio, Cousins, Gaudette, McEwen was the bottom six for Ottawa last night, and certainly got at least one goal out of that group and did a pretty darn good job.
Okay, before we get into more detail, let's just get an overview from Craig Berube and what he saw.
Well, it's not a good game, for us. There wasn't much good to talk about in the game overall. It was we got outskated. They wanted it more than us. That's the bottom line.
What do you think of that, Kip? They wanted it more than us.
Yeah, that's all he needed to start and end with. Was that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's right. But it just feels like maybe a little reductive and too simple and kind of the answer we're going to get when they lose.
Yeah. I mean, let's just, before I get my overall thought of that comment, I'll revisit it. Remind me, okay?
Okay.
But besides of they just wanted it more than us, there is a real now concern for what you were talking about a bottom six that can't produce. And how quickly do you want to see some changes, either internally with the Marlies? So they called up Steve's yesterday. I think he's got 8 and 9 goals or 9 and 10 games with the Marlies.
Yeah.
I'd find a way to get him into the lineup tonight.
Oh, no question.
I'd take someone on the blue line.
Hakanpää's in, I believe, right?
Well, I don't think it's been confirmed.
We don't know if he's in or not, but
activated off
he's
LTIR
available.
today. Yeah.
And so is Myers. Is Benoit struggling for you guys a little bit?
Yep.
So I think there could be changes, but I'm not sure if you're going to find answers there, but they're going to have to start shopping around here. And we saw a trade the other day between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals that moved Lars Eller in.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that might interest the Leafs to go find something in the next week or two to kind of shore up here?
Yeah, you think that's an option, eh?
I do. I think it's there's been enough games to understand that there seems to be an issue on the bottom six right now when it comes to scoring or creating.
Yeah, obviously Matthews being out is significant, but they're also Calle Yarncroc now feels like he's not coming back. He scored 20 last year. It was 20 last year or the year before. He might have had 15 last year, but he's in that kind of range as a depth guy who chips in. He's not coming back anytime soon, I don't think. Could be wrong on that, but
well, he's going to get a second opinion,
right,
on a sports hernia that doesn't exist. So we'll see how that goes.
Right.
Let's go to Berube on the lack of offense and how concerned is he?
Clip 2.
Tonight we didn't have the puck, so it's pretty tough to score any goals when you don't have the puck. They had the puck the whole game pretty much until the third period. We gotta generate more attempts at the net with people at the net and creating offense that way. We just didn't do a good enough job tonight. Overall, it was just not a good game.
Okay. They didn't have the puck all night because you tell them to get rid of it.
Yeah. No, this is like such an everything's a nail to a hammer for me.
You want them dumping it in. And unlike the Ottawa Senators last night, when they did get it in deep, they got it first.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're starting to hear from Willie and a few others, the one and done. Willie mentioned it last night.
Yeah.
We were one and done. And it's, no kidding.
Yeah.
You get the puck and you get rid of it and you dump it in. And then you go into this north-south, which is fine when you can go get the puck and then do what Ottawa did after they get it and either start a cycle, get it back to the point, drive it to the net, sustain pressure, second and third opportunities. That's when you start looking like north-south works.
Yeah.
Not last night.
No, what's really hard is we've had coaches on before, and I've asked them, I think Peter Laviolette and Boudreau, do you coach the way you want to coach, or do you coach to your roster? And to a man, everyone I've asked that to says you coach your roster. You can't, it has to fit the guys that you have, even if you want to play a certain way. And that's emerging as a question for me is this roster able to do this north-south thing as effectively. So the Leafs now, to your point about dump-ins, dump it in the third most in the NHL, fourth most in the NHL. 3 teams do it more.
Can you tell me which teams?
The Florida Panthers, the Boston Bruins, and I forget the third team.
Okay.
But Florida does it the most in the league. And then Sam Bennett and, that
Matthew Tkachuk.
and those guys go and hunt it and do their thing. And even when they don't get it back, they get body on someone and it's part of their identity. The Leafs, I don't know that it comes as naturally to them.
Well, I don't want Mitch Marner or Willie to dump it in and right. And so there's sometimes when you do have to, based on percentages and
sure, you got no options. The guy standing up at the line.
Like we don't want Willie to turn it over like in the first 40 seconds like he did at that blue line, but there's other factors that are involved, and that one was, hey, Morgan, like, where are you? Like, Willie's not the first superstar to turn the puck over 3 feet inside the blue line. They all do it.
It's not great, but it shouldn't be a goal against.
What matters is who's behind me.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. And that's so because of that, I think I think it's related, but I wrote an article today on their lack of 5-on-5 offense. They're in the bottom half of the league in puck time in the O zone. So they don't have it as much, to Craig Berube's point, as they used to. And then here's the big one that stands out to me is the rush chances, Kip. They're 29th in the NHL in rush chances for. So they don't get anything off the rush. Last year they were 7th. And I don't know. Remember Keefe used to send the weak side wing across on the breakout, so someone was flying the zone. Opposing D would back out, and if they didn't, you'd get a break. And if the puck hopped over a stick, you'd get a break. They had no rush chances for this year. So, this roster, I don't know. They're very good defensively, the best they've been defensively in years. Best they've been under this leadership.
Okay, but you've had world-class goaltending, and you had world-class goaltending last night.
Mm-hmm.
If it isn't Stolarz, that thing's 6 or 7-0. It's not 3.
It's probably, not sorry to do this, Ilya. We're somewhere in Vegas. If it's Ilya Samsonov and net, it's 4-0 by the end of the first period.
4.
Yeah.
And that can give you some good defensive numbers,
He's second
too.
in the NHL in save percentage.
But he was the fact that they were still in the game, like late in the second period, is just only because of Stolarz.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me get it. Like, do you think, are you concerned about this team here? Like, I'm getting a tone from you.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, today I woke up and I said that, like, it's not built perfectly for Craig Berube.
Yeah. The one thing that does give me concern is everyone's like, they need to be this like defensive, playoff style team or whatever. We know they haven't scored in the playoffs in the past, but the plan has been the core 4 will score you out of your trouble. They'll do the scoring, let everyone else do whatever. And that plan doesn't work. And we know that. And now it's more dependent on them than ever.
Yes, ever.
It's never been more dependent on them.
Never,
Right.
Because at least last year you had Austin, who was like a goal a game kind of guy.
Right. And Tyler Bertuzzi scored 20 and he didn't get replaced.
Right. It was always nice that you had that threat. Right. And it's gone.
Yeah.
At least to start the season, it's gone.
Yeah, it hasn't been there.
You hope he can come back next week and start it up.
Yeah.
But that's no longer there.
Like, I don't think they're the 18th best offensive team in the league. I think they're a top, they'll be 9th, 10th, whatever, once Austin comes back and has a hot run. And like, they're not going to get shut out every night. This team is decent offensively because of that core, but you just don't want to only need 4 guys to score. It was like, okay, Nyes is coming along.
Yeah.
And part of this, Kip, if not to go in too long a rant, but I've been thinking about this for 2 days now, is I think for McMahon and Robertson as 2 guys who are supposed to take an offensive step, telling them that they're the dump it in guys doesn't help them. That's not who McMahon is.
And Max Domi has lost some confidence.
Yeah. He doesn't look like he did. This is the longest he's gone in his NHL career.
Yeah.
Without a point.
And that's an issue too, because he's he needs to be a secondary support guy. That's where he's at his best. Come in short spurts to plug a hole here and there and find a way to kind of contribute, and that's completely dried up. And I think he's at his best when he's like ornery out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just you don't need to fight, you don't need to take bad penalties, but you just gotta be that gnat in someone's side, and he's not right now either.
He's wearing it. Like, he has that chance in front of the net at the end of the second period when it's still a game. If he pokes that in,
It's a good save.
it's a good save, but
And
like
it's a game.
He's
You
tight.
go into the period still in the hockey game with
but
that goal.
you know how the amount of skill that Max Domi has in and around the net.
Yeah.
He's totally rushes that. Like chops away at it, just like I got to get this towards the
Good
net.
save,
Like
Sammy.
great save,
Good save.
no question.
Yeah.
But like if he's feeling it, if he's in the flow, maybe like quick cut to the backhand, wait for 1 second or whatever. But you can tell that he goes back to the bench. Dewar's like patting him on the back. It's like he is wearing it, and they just need way more from him. I know it's very easy to say 11 games, no point. They need more from them, but they need more from him.
What's tough for a guy like Domi is like he has to know that this is his chance to solidify top 6 opportunity on the team, and not producing with someone like Mitch Marner, who's as good as he is. He probably knows that means you're probably going to play on the third line. These opportunities aren't going to be there as much, and that makes you squeeze it a little extra tight.
But if Willie and Mitch do not have the puck, then they're dead in the water.
Yeah. No, it's so they in the last 5 games, 4 of which are without Matthews, no 5-on-5 goals from the forwards, 1 total 5-on-5 goal. Why don't we listen to Craig Berube on the lack of 5-on-5 scoring?
Going into this game, we were pretty happy with our game. I mean, I get it. We're, it's a low event games, 5-on-5, where we're checking hard. We had, more offensive zone time than the other teams. And, we want to score. We want to score more 5-on-5 for sure. But at the same time, we can't sabotage the game like we did right away in the game, giving them 3-on-1 and they score. Like, that's not going to work.
I don't know that they had that much more puck possession than the other teams recently, but anyway.
So, okay.
What?
I don't know.
Here's what
I'm just getting a tone from you two today.
The roof didn't cave in last night.
No, but that's what I'm feeling like you guys think.
No. And I can recall before the season started, I think you guys had them winning the Atlantic.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
I said third. And I said that I think the first 20 games might be tough with a new system and a new philosophy. Probably I've seen signs.
Calling that a win?
No,
you
I'm
can
not.
call it a win. I'm not making fun of you for doing it.
I've gone two extremes
Yeah.
because we had that start, right?
The Tampa game that we all talk about forever.
We'll talk about that game for a long time.
Yeah, so that's like
Okay, because that was like a game changer. Like this team's in way better shape than we even thought.
Yeah.
And then they
whatever the next few games
you want to call.
Yeah.
And then they pulled it back a little bit and started getting some momentum again. And now we're pulled back again. So not as great as we ever thought they were. And they're not anywhere near as bad as some people may feel after that shellacking last night.
I do feel like, the question of are they different is like unimpeachable. They are different. Like I in my article today, I list their defensive stats. High danger chances. Last year, they were 19th in what they gave up against. This year, they're 4th. Rebound chances, 16th, 6th this year. Rush chances, 18th. This year, 4th. Like they're way better defensively.
So those wouldn't be goalie numbers.
No, those are not goalie numbers. That's chance numbers.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like they have eliminated everything from the game. There is no chances, no rushes, nothing happens, which thrilled to watch. But to me, it leaves way more up to chance. And you say, we need a good save percentage and good shooting, percentage, and we'll win. And if we don't get those things, we'll lose. And that to me is just like, it turns them into every other team. There's 10 teams like that. So
the thing I ask, and I would love to know what their numbers were like that in the playoffs last year, because that playoff series last year against the Bruins, every game was 2-1 or 3-2. Like I never was like, oh my God, the defense is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's nice to see these numbers, and like I really do have belief that Berube, and they've signed 2 legit NHL defensemen for the top 4 of their team with Alfred, Larson, and Tanev.
Yep.
But, it still comes down to it. You're going to need to score some goals.
You're going to need to score
You're
some
going to get to the playoffs, and you're going to need somebody other than the core 4 to shoot one in a net in a game 6 when you need one.
Yeah. And I think that has to be addressed eventually externally.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you think externally?
Yeah.
But
last year in the playoffs, their defensive numbers were excellent.
yeah, outstanding.
Excellent. Yeah.
So
everything except rush chances against.
Yeah.
They gave up a ton of those.
But there's you're mentioning the external help. There's not a ton of stuff coming here. We mentioned this with Gord yesterday, but now with, my Pat Shreddy, you guys are joking about him, but him being out for a while, probably a month.
Yeah.
A little longer, don't know.
Well, I don't underestimate taking a guy like that where he was in his game,
Great third line.
and hitting. And,
No, for sure. But he's just
what
a
he did for
legit,
John Tavares too.
yeah, legit NHL body. And then no Matthews, so whenever Matthews comes back. But outside of those two guys, where is the help coming from?
Like Yarny?
No, there isn't.
There's not.
They got to go outside.
Steve's. That's what I mean. It's
gotta go.
is Steve's going to come in here and start shooting
Yeah.
him in the net for you?
Yeah.
Maybe he'll get 1 or 2,
Yeah,
but
but that's not
you
got
gotta
to
go out.
You're talking about playoffs, right? You're looking at a bigger.
yeah.
The one thing, and I agree with you, the blue line is better on a whole,
Yeah.
but I'm watching a very quick, fast Ottawa blue line led by Jake Sanderson.
Oh my God.
And
he's
I'm
so
going,
good. He's so good.
the blue and white team, they don't have one of those.
Yeah.
Okay. And Morgan last night, tough game, right? He needs to be the closest thing to a pacer on that blue line for the Leafs as Jake Sanderson sets the pace when he's on the ice for the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah. No,
And they looked slow. They looked
I agree.
quick. That blue line looked fast and quick, and the Leaf blue line could not keep up.
Yeah, I don't worry about the Leafs. I do worry about their overall speed. Today, Sammy was talking about Lars Eller before we got on the air, and he says that'd be nice for the Leafs, right? A third line center like that.
Yeah.
But to me, that's more of what they have. That's a big, slower, older guy who is like Pacioretty.
Yeah.
Pacioretty, stylistically.
You'll see where others are, Nielsen in the Island.
Brock Nelson, yeah.
Brock Nelson.
Yeah.
Dvorak, Christian Dvorak, I think is in his last year of his deal in Montreal. We'll see where that is. But there's going to be guys like that around that might be a little younger too. And there's going to be depth guys like that available. You probably would have hoped that you could wait till January or February.
But why? Why not?
Well, now you might be forced to push a little harder because, again, you want separation in your division. You don't want to be one of those mid teams, a couple of games above 500 or at 500 or a couple of games below 500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's real easy to have seen they win 3 or 4 in a row there against non-playoff teams and get excited. But, the standards and expectations for the year are, okay, how's it shaping up for playoffs? And you should beat those teams.
I like how you lumped Boston into the non-playoff teams there. Big fan of that.
I think they look.
What do you
And
think?
Hampus Lindholm's out some weeks.
Yeah.
So the Leafs are at what, 20 points right now? Right?
Yes.
Where are they if Stolarz has not been one of the best goalies on the planet?
But he's on the team. They signed.
Right?
Teams get good. We're the Rangers without Stricken.
Hey, I'll tell you where.
You get good
in the
goalie.
toilet.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
the
though.
toilet.
But I hate this argument. They went out there, they got a good goalie, they made a signing. You're allowed to get good goaltending. We're so used to not having it.
And Shesterkin's allowed a bad night.
Yes.
And he had one.
Yeah.
And the Rangers have no chance of winning when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay, but goalies can go through bad stretches too.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to be the team that just masks, are you really as good as you think you are, or are you just a guy that just gets good goaltending because Sam says you're part of the team and you have to stand on your head?
Well, you don't have to stand on your head, but the Leafs have not gotten good goaltending here for a few years.
And now they are.
And now they are.
But if Stolarz with no prior history of being a guy that can sustain a high level and they continue to kind of be who they are right now, then this team's in a dogfight to make the playoffs, maybe.
You know, I'm looking at this roster and I'm saying, so yeah, I mean, he's been very good, and I expect them to have at least averaged a good goaltending this year. To me, the problem is not speed necessarily. It's can Craig Berube adjust the way he wants to do this? Can he say, all right, Mitch and Willie, you guys need to handle the puck and go lateral. Hey, Bobby McMahon, you're not Steven Lorentz. You have different standards than Steven Lorentz. Or is he just going to say,
I think
they wanted it more than us. Get it, puck to the net with traffic, get rebounds.
I think that's just his way of getting out of the thing as fast as he can.
Yeah, I think he hates it.
I think behind the scenes, he's trying to do what you're saying.
Yeah.
I do. I don't think for 1 second he's saying, whether you're Willie Nylander or Mitch Marner or Nick Robertson or Bobby McMahon, you get the red line, you dump it in.
Yeah,
Nick
Robertson.
The reason why
not gonna get it back.
Willie made the turnover on the first goal is because he knows he's supposed to carry it in at times,
for him, yeah.
right? And I don't think that's ever going to change. But it just some nights it doesn't look good.
It does feel bleak though when you look at the bottom six, and it's like if Robertson and McMahon don't end up being contributors, then boy, who's going to score? Connor Dewar. First game back, we'll give him some runway before we judge him. But, could not have been farther from the hockey puck last night.
Who could have predicted that a line of Connor Dewar, Pontus Holmberg, and Nick Robertson wouldn't have worked?
I think
who could have seen that coming?
But sometimes you're left with three pieces of the IKEA table, and the table's built, and you go, I don't know.
Okay.
You just
Here's
that's your lineup.
Here's the other one here. Because they're going into Washington. This will be their fifth back-to-back. Leave the game last night, sit at Customs for 45 minutes, land in Buffalo, another 45 minutes to 50 minutes from BWI to the hotel, 2:33 a.m.
To Washington, you mean?
In Washington. Yeah,
He's
sorry.
in Buffalo, yeah.
No. BWI is, I think, Baltimore, Washington.
I was like, do they got to take a connecting flight? What's going on?
And, they've had the hardest training camp and have asked to be hard in practice.
Hardest team Max Pacioretty's ever been around.
4 games and 4 games in 6 days. And I'm listen.
But these are real things.
I can't believe this. It's not a built-in excuse. But thank you, JB. These are real.
They physically affect you.
These
running
are real.
a marathon is harder than running
I think. They
are you making an excuse for the Leafs?
Last night they looked like I got nothing left.
We were at that morning skate yesterday. I was saying that, and it was like Willie went out there with Hakanpaa and Myers and Steves. Everyone else is like, thanks. I'm having waffles at home.
Yeah.
I'm coming in for this.
And they've been asked to play a new style of play that's got Austin hurt, that got Pacioretty hurt, and probably a few other ones with bumps and bruises. I told you guys this. We're going to see guys hurt, and it's coming.
And I think, one of the things that we said, I don't know, a couple weeks ago was 82 games in the style of Berube's choosing it's just guys who can't do it. You can't play like it's the playoffs 82 times. You cannot. No.
The 3 eggs they've laid this year have been pretty phenomenal ones.
Full nights off. Just dress the Marlies.
Under Keefe, they used to make a fake comeback.
For sure, the fake comeback.
Right? They used to do that
in the article. Remember?
Fake comeback.
They did. They used to score 2 or 3.
They were down 5 to Columbus in the third, and they went to overtime. Last night, they were just like, Mwah.
But think about the ones like the Columbus one, which was so bad. The Blues one at home, and then this one. Those are 3 pretty phenomenal eggs early in the season.
And when they look good, they look
so good. So good.
So knowing the Leafs that we know them now, they'll find a way to win tonight.
I don't know.
I
would
feel
never
like
bet
this is not the
against it.
same old Leafs.
Yeah, maybe you're right, but I wouldn't bet against it.
I wouldn't. So I was broken by that little stretch where it was like, they laid an egg. Watch tonight how good they are, and then they laid another egg, and it's like they didn't.
They did the back-to-back eggs.
Yeah.
It was Columbus into St. Louis at home.
Yes, it's like they didn't used to bounce back pretty well.
a big night for Joseph Wall
Tonight?
Yeah, don't you
I think so, yeah. First semi-hiccup, I guess, for Stolarz, but not really. He was still really good.
Are we on the same page that for the Leafs to win tonight, he has to be first or second star?
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yep.
I really like the
ready?
idea of how many bodies can you turn over in this lineup? Like, who's available that you can get in?
Anyone.
Yeah, Steves, Myers, Hakanpää, like as many fresh bodies as you can. And then, you're going to have to rely on the power play a little bit and get good goaltending. Because 5-on-5, it's not there.
Great goaltending.
And if Joseph Wall plays really well tonight, still Anthony Stolarz Saturday night against Connor McDavid and the Oilers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Yes.
Okay. I completely
Stolarz is the man.
agree wholeheartedly.
Like for him to have that effort last night and keep it relatively sane in terms of what the score looked like at the end of it.
Yeah.
This guy's it, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's it.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. We are doing a sports talk radio show. I thought I should ask the question.
Okay.
We should go. Sanders coming up.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, Craig Simpson, former National Hockey Leaguer, Stanley Cup champion, Hockey Night in Canada, will join us. And then at the top of the hour, Jason York, co-host of Coming In Hot, the Sens podcast. Oh, he's just going to rub it into Sammy, isn't he? For his Sens beating on the Leafs.
I was impressed last night by the Sens.
Yeah. They look good.
What can I say?
All right. And also,
That's the
Landon
nicest thing I said.
Ferraro is going to join us, son of Ray.
Mm.
He's doing a good job on Sportsnet as an analyst as well. So plenty more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. It's a Leaf Hour edition of the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Okay, let's welcome him in. Former NHLer, two-time Stanley Cup champion, Craig Simpson. Hey, Simmer, how are you, pal?
I'm great, guys. Hey, you're obviously not able to watch the show because I'm in Washington. I'm just wondering, I could just picture how sullen and dejected Sammy would be looking on that right side. He was you guys were kind of piling on, and he felt like he was just getting lower and lower.
I said the roof's not falling in, Sammy, but there are some red flags, Simmer, in terms of some concerns. I know last week it was the power play, and that kind of got straightened out. Right. But this 5-on-5 thing, scoring goals without a power play or a shorthanded goal, that seems to be an issue right now with this hockey club.
Yeah, there's no question. There's a few leaks in the foundation that you got to patch up, and isn't that though the journey of every season? It seems like you have one issue that's there, and you mentioned it looked like the power play just had no confidence and nothing going well at all, and then they rhyme off, 4 straight games with looking like the power play of old. So, you go through the little blips in your season where all of a sudden things dry up and they expose some of the weaknesses you had. And listening to you guys, I think you're right. I mean, the exposure is something that has plagued them, that secondary scoring and that push from another body other than, 3 guys that you rely upon or 4 guys that you rely upon. And that is becoming a problem in this little stretch. And, I listened to, in fact, you said Steves gets called up. I go, there's a situation where you can't just continue to throw out the lineup that's been out there. You've got absolutely nothing from Holmberg. You've got nothing from Camp. You've got nothing from McMahon, nothing from Robertson in that stretch. Max having his struggles. So, yeah, a guy who has 9 goals and 12 points in 10 games in the minors, you have to send that message. And that's really important for the Marlies as well to know, hey, if I go down and have an impact there, I might get a chance and maybe I can come up and contribute. But there's no question that it's really been their demise early on here. There's no offensive push from anybody other than the top 3 guys.
Yeah, Simmer, to that point, like last year they led the NHL in 5-on-5 goals, and over the last 4 years combined, they have led the NHL in 5-on-5 goals, but they haven't won. And so have those playoff failures, have they taught them the right lessons here where now they're saying, okay, we don't want to be that team anymore. We want to be a low event team, but it almost feels like it's kind of taken away the thing that made them elite. Yeah,
and the low event is one, okay, can you play these tight games that maybe you have to protect a 1-goal lead? And can you play a disciplined and structured game to not be leaking, at the most critical times? I go back to the games you're talking about, and in the playoff winner-take-all games, the last 6 times that they've been in what's a Game 7 or the 1 year Game 5, they've been outscored 22-8. They've scored 8 goals in those critical moments in 6 games. And that's the telltale sign. I agree with you. Last year, I don't know if it was Sammy who was talking about it, was defensively, they were a much better team. They had really good structure. They were solid in their own end, but it comes down to, again, another 1-goal game that you can't get the goal. And I do think that's what happens when, who's going to be your hero of the night. And often in those kind of big games, it's not always the Matthews or Marner or the top guys. It's somebody like a Robertson, like a McMahon. That's where you got to find that offense that hasn't been happening. And this is just a little microcosm of that, I think, that, look at the dry spells of those critical guys who are hopefully coming into this year going to give you a little bit more balance. And, part of it is, I think, learning to play a bit of a different system. I do think they're a little confused at times that, the things that they did instinctively well, like curl back in the offensive zone, cycle up top, have puck control, take it low, take it high, but don't throw it away quickly. You kind of get some mixed messages that, I want you to get it in. I want to get in on the forecheck. I want to get in on the body and start hitting their defense. That's easy to say, but if you're not really all that familiar in how to play that way, it can take some time. And I think you're seeing a few stumbles around that because of it.
Simmer, did you ever play for a coach that asked you to play in a way that you didn't naturally play? And if so, how did you handle that?
Yeah, I think every coach tries to push you and challenge you. I kind of laugh at that because when I went to Edmonton and get put on a line with 2 Hall of Famers, Mark Messier and Glenn Anderson, the joke for me was, Simmer, I don't ever want to see you carrying the puck. And so, even my teammates would laugh about it because I learned and said, come back deep in our end. You've got to win the battle along the boards when the D-band pinches down. And I get Mess the puck. I get Andy the puck on the other side. And then I can use my skills that I needed to come in late, find the lanes that are opening up, because those guys create so much havoc. And I think I talked to you guys before, about for Matthew Nyes, that's the way you got to learn how to play with those guys, deliver it to them, and then be effective getting open and playing the game that you need to play to complement them. So I think in some ways, definitely for me, it was like, I got to learn how to play to fit best with those types of players. And it didn't take long, but you get reminded. And, sometimes I'd come back to the bench and say, Simmer, that's not what we want you to do. You got pride as a player. You want to be carrying the puck and dangling through, but that's not what was needed of me. So a little bit different messaging, obviously, with the way that Craig does it too. And I think that takes a little bit of getting used to as well. Are you a little bit intimidated, or you think he's mad at you? Does that affect you at all? I think you've got to just know the messaging is going to be in that way. Absorb it the best you can, and you got to find a way to contribute and find a way to get your game to a level that you can be relied upon to be in the lineup each and every night. And I think there's a few guys that haven't quite got to that point yet.
We're talking to Craig Simpson, who will call the game out of Washington tonight as the Capitals go against the Toronto Maple Leafs on Sportsnet. And Simmer, we know that there's the team concept and the team philosophy, but there are different rules for different players, and we cannot expect Willie Nylander to simply dump a puck in, or Mitch Marner dump a puck in like we would see a David Kampf or a Ryan Reeves. But, when it doesn't go right, Simmer, and you've played some, for some tough coaches, and when we start getting the looks of a Craig Berube giving it to a few guys, and we've seen it probably on a few occasions with Willie Nylander, like how much can you get away with it? And how much do you have to be conscientious of not overdoing it as a coach with a star player? Because as we do know, there are different boundaries for each and every one of us, even though we're all trying to play the same way.
Yeah. Well, and I think you mentioned it earlier, every star player, Mario, Wayne, Mess, you name Connor McDavid, probably leads the league in turnovers, right? Like they've got the damn puck all the time and they've got all guys around them. So you've got to live a little bit with their creativity and the license to be creative and know that there's going to be the times where they're not all that great with the puck. And I do think that's an important balance for a coach when you do have those kind of skilled players. And, every coach has a shelf life because of that personality that can, rub guys the wrong way or not. And Craig, I think what you have to accept as a player is you're going to get a more direct and unfiltered message from him than maybe you would have from Sheldon or maybe you from any coach you've ever had. So part of the challenge of that is to really understand that inherently going into the game and say, you can't be afraid to be a player out there. You've got to, if I'm William Nylander, I know what my skill set is, but I also have to accept that when I do have something that goes wrong or I'm not playing a solid game and I do turn the puck over, I have to be ready that I'm going to hear different messaging. And that might be easy for some guys. I kind of think Willie can handle that and understand that. But for other guys, as you've probably seen, Nick, on the bench, it can really rattle them. And that is really going to be Craig's challenge to say, what are the 21 individuals that I have to coach here? And some I might have to coddle a little bit. I'm not sure that's part of his, way of coaching. But I think it's realistic when you have different personalities that handle those stressors differently. And like, what do you say to a guy like Max Domi right now? And you guys talked about his body language of going to the bench. There's nothing worse than when your confidence is down and it's like you don't want the puck. You almost want to be invisible sometimes. And it's a real physical thing that you have to overcome as a player. So, maybe the coach has to take a little different tack right now. You might have been tough on him earlier. Now you got to coddle him a little bit. Now you got to prop him up. And I think that's what will be interesting to watch and see. I think Craig does it in a different way that other coaches have, but I think that's the important thing, that you have to find out what your players need from you as a coach.
And the season has to settle in too, because you're not even a quarter of the season in here. And if Craig starts giving it to some of the guys this early and is consistent with it, Craig, we've played with guys that'll just shut right down. Right?
Absolutely. And that is a worry, isn't it, Nick? Some guys get browbeat and they just can't recover from it. And I agree. When you snap as a coach too, it makes the next time you snap a little bit less effective. If there is accumulation effect of that, of saying, okay, not again, like, geez. And so I think that's one thing Craig McCavish always said, and I took a lot of that when was coaching with him. You go in there and tear the paint off, you better feel that it was the right time and it was the moment that the guys needed it, and maybe they needed a little bit of a snap to attention, because the next time I do it, they're going to go, yeah, right, you just did that before. And so it becomes less and less of a changing message. And I do think there's a little bit of a worry of that, especially in game on the bench, that, the cameras pick up each and every time. Guys can get tired of that pretty quickly.
Simmer, the Leafs are one of the best teams in the league when it comes to not allowing rushes against. They're also not getting any rushes for. Last year, they used to get quite a few. When you're calling these games, are you seeing something different in the way they break the puck out, or the way, I guess it just feels like their coach has them a little more tightly tethered to their own net, and that's resulting in those two things?
Yeah, I've been trying to be conscious of that, because as Nick was just saying, it's so early in the season, you're going, geez, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of transformational difference in the way that they're playing, but I listened to the stats, and I do think that defensively was definitely something that they wanted to key on and be predictable, be reliable. It helps the D-men when they know exactly where everyone's going to be. Guys aren't flowing the zone. It's not that offside winger taking off as soon as it looks like you're going to get control. So in that regard, yes, I don't think, it's an overriding fundamental difference in their game, but it is kind of shocking that you're not getting those odd man rushes and you're not getting that quick transition. When I think of the Leafs when they played really well because of the skill set that they have, play good defensive, be tight on the line, create an offensive or a defensive zone, turnover by your opponent, and bang, you're back the other way in transition, and you're catching them, and you're getting odd man rushes. If anything, Justin, I don't think I've seen nearly as much of that, and I'm not sure if that's structure or guys trying to be back a little further or wait and not, but that's something to watch. If that's an early trend, I'd be a little concerned, because I do think it was really one of their good strengths to be a quick attack transition team, and that hasn't seemed to have been happening in the early going.
Hey, Simmer, Ron McLean and the Hockey Night in Canada crew did a terrific job of giving your mom a tribute Saturday night. Of course, we lost Marion Simpson, who died peacefully last week, and our condolences to you and Christine and Dave, and I know the hockey mom union's a little lighter today. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Nick. You know, we all, seeing your mom, dementia is such a difficult thing to deal with. So in so many ways, you know, you feel heartfelt that her tough journey is over. But man, I wouldn't have been able to my brother wouldn't have been able to get to where he did from an athletic standpoint without her support. And just like all of our moms, just love her dearly, and we're going to miss her. And I really appreciate everybody's kind comments. It's been really soothing for the family. Appreciate it.
Have a great call tonight, Craig. Looking forward to it.
Okay, guys, take care.
Thanks a lot, Simmer.
That is Craig Simpson.
I mean, what a matriarch of a great hockey family between Craig
and yours too, because I got to meet your mom.
Yeah, got to meet mom in the building. Yeah.
Oh, you guys did get to meet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
We had a full tour here. Had my brother, sister-in-law, mom here.
Your mom gave me a hug, and it was the nicest thing ever. She's got to feel like I know you.
Well,
I'm like, come here.
She tunes in.
Just one thing
on my heart
on Berube, and that is that, like, you got to understand too. Every time he says, "Well, I wasn't really here last year," right?
Yeah.
But he got enough information to know that at times the feeling was Sheldon didn't hold the players accountable.
Yeah.
So without even knowing the whole story, he's coming a little bit locked and loaded.
Yeah, that bugs me. Right?
Me. It does bother you?
Yeah. It's like, well, the job is to know what's been the problem. You're the fix-it guy. You need the diagnosis before you can start fixing.
Yeah, I could see that. But it is good cop, bad cop. Mm-hmm. Like, Sheldon, too soft. Now Craig comes in and it's like, nope, we're up 4-1. I'm giving you crap. We're down 4-1. You're getting crap anyways. And it's like, he's just, after 20 games, 15, 20 games, he's going to have to really settle in, as Craig said, and pick your spots.
You know, if Craig's sitting here and he's on this mic hearing you say that, he would say, when he starts doing what I ask him, I'll stop yelling at him. You know, like, just stop doing dumb stuff, and it'd be that easy.
How do you think we got Sammy to wear this spot today?
It's just
habits take time to break.
Well,
I have not.
Great drop.
I have not said anything smart for 4 years, and I'm still here. So I'm coachable, though, boys.
So
what?
Ovi and Washington for real here?
Ovi, most goals against the Maple Leafs amongst active players. Number one, Alex Ovechkin with 44 goals against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
In how many games?
The next closest is Sidney Crosby. I don't have how many games.
Oh, they don't.
But I didn't put that on the lineup. I just put how many he has. Sidney Crosby, 29. Evgeny Malkin, 24. Steven Stamkos, 23. Claude Giroux, 21. So basically, if you were like a star during the 2010s,
in the East,
you lit up the Leafs.
44 talks.
It's a lot.
One franchise.
Yeah, that's a really good season for someone. He's got that against the Leafs.
Gotten younger on us. In what? 3 months? 4 months?
I don't know.
The voice of God, a.k.a. Jake the Snake, says he has 44 goals in 59 games.
Oh!
That's not a bad
59
run.
games.
Not a bad run.
Yeesh.
And you know who's been real good, too, is that Dylan Strome.
Yeah, and McMichael.
You know what kind of pace Dylan Strome's on right now? 129 points.
That's a RNH 120-year type pace. Where it's like, what?
Do not go away. We go national next on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. All right, let's take it national on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour, Real Kyper and Bourne, brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne back off of assignment yesterday. And our thanks to Gord Stellick, who did an okay job filling in for you.
I heard he was wonderful.
He was wonderful.
He's the man.
I heard Spencer Carberry was really good, too.
He was good, too.
He was good.
Sammy McKee's good, too.
Oh.
Derek Brandeo, Jake the Snake Schultz. It's a good hour
Good.
coming up.
I'm ready to reclaim the throne here and discuss all things. I don't know. That seemed a little dramatic.
Jason York, co-host of Coming In Hot, the Sens podcast, will join us in a few minutes. They're coming off a very convincing win over Sammy's Toronto Maple Leafs.
Now that the Leafs fans are gone, we could really heap praise on the Sens because that was some showing.
You okay with that, Sammy?
Yeah. I would also like to, before we get to York, I don't know if he's there yet or not, but I'd like to heap some praise on Connor McDavid.
Oh, God. I saw people calling it a perfect hockey game. He played perfectly.
I was going back and forth between Canucks and Flames in that game. And I watched the overtime of Oilers and Islanders.
Who was the defenseman caught out
Pollock?
there?
Pollock?
Sucking wind like no. I felt for the guy.
Wasn't a fair fight.
And then they do the right thing. They bring the puck out to the blue with possession.
With a line change.
And they send the thoroughbreds over the boards.
The moment they went over, you're like,
it's over.
throw the towel
Yeah.
in. That's where Patrick Waugh needed to actually throw the towel in on the ice.
You know what I like, though, is they didn't pull the puck all the way back to their own blue. They just brought it out a little bit just to get those two guys on the ice. All the Islanders on the ice must be like, oh, God.
And
It's like watching a tornado coming for your house.
Connor makes a awesome basic pass, but the play Draisaitl on a goalie who was outstanding. Sorokin stood on his head in that game.
Yeah, he was.
And he just makes him look stupid. Just bar down right over his
I
shoulder.
don't know how stupid he made him look. He just
like within
there
1
was just
second.
there's just a little bit of room, and he finds it. It's like you get dared by goalies. Like, I don't think you're going to hit this spot, and he goes, "Yeah, try me."
The Islanders getting a point out of that game was not justice for what should have happened.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, Skinner, the 2-on-1 goal, I didn't love Skinner's slow post-to-postness.
So quickly, McDavid on the brink of 1,000 points after 4 points last night.
Oh,
When McDavid hits his 1,000th point, he will become the 99th player in NHL history to achieve that feat. He is set to become the fourth fastest behind only Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, and Mike Bossy. Pretty good. Pretty good company there, boys.
you were at the Hall of Fame on Monday.
Yeah.
If his career ended today, is he in the Hall of Fame? No more games.
Yes.
657
God,
games,
you even need
999
to
points.
ask.
Yes.
Hard yes.
Hard yes.
You need to ask.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's in. He's got 3 Hart trophies, 4 Lindsays,
Oh,
5 Art Rosses,
it's not even a contest.
Cup final.
Who's fifth, Sammy?
I
Is there a
only
list?
have 4.
I think Lindros is up there.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if he hit 1,000. No, he was top 5 for 500 points, I think.
And McDavid almost had 5 points. I thought he was going to get 5 last night. Ended with a piddly little 4, but he's back in full effect.
Oh, here you go. He's ahead of Peter Stastny, Yari Curry, Guy Lafleur, Brian Trottier, Dennis Savard, Steve Yzerman, Marcel Dion, Phil Esposito, Sidney Crosby, Jaromir Jagr, Paul Coffey, among other members of the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's
And
pretty special, man.
It's a nice list.
And I will call it right now on November 11th. Oh, sorry, November 13th, 2024. He will be the second all-time in points in the history of the league.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
He'll be the second guy ever to get to 2,000.
So the thing that killed me looking at the ages of the guys who got to 1,000 points, like the youngest guys, it's like McDavid's fourth, you said, at 27 and change. Guys 27 and a bit, 26. Gretzky's 23. He's 23 in like 300 days. He had 1,000 points at 23 years old.
23. How? How did that happen? Was he playing when he was 14? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, I have no
There's
idea.
a lot of 200-point seasons.
It's crazy.
So DA and I worked together last night, and he said, like, if he plays in the game today, he's still the best player in the game. This is DA talking. He says he's still the best player in the NHL with all the training, the gear, and all that. But how much better would he be than McDavid today? Is he a 175-point player? How does it
Okay,
translate?
but
Impossible.
no.
It's an impossible conversation.
It's impossible because it's not apples to apples. Like Wayne had Yari, he had Glenn Anderson, he had Paul Coffey.
He had a salary cap, which let them keep their Hall of Fame
He had
team.
5 Hall of Famers with him.
Yeah.
Is Zach Hyman a Hall of Famer?
No.
Is
Obviously Leon and
Leon's
then
Leon is.
Nuge a Hall of Famer?
So maybe the better thing is if Connor was playing then with all those guys, like is the
200,
point these guys are
200.
hockey equals?
225. Connor back in the 80s.
I would like to see. I would.
More than Gretz.
I would like to put right now Connor back in the 80s.
No changes. Current Connor.
Like he might get 300 points.
All right, as promised, let's go and get Jason York. Does a great job coming on our show, breaking down things around the Ottawa Senators. Of course, he's got a great show called Coming in Hot with the Sens, and that's certainly the case last night. What did you do to our boy Sammy last night, Yorkie? So we're just having a conversation. If Tim Stützle played with the Oilers in the 80s, how would he end up with 225 points? Is he that good now? He looked pretty good to me last night.
Yeah, he's pretty good, Kyper. I love all the guys in this era are really, really good players. But let's just back the truck up here for a sec. If you had to go back and play in the 80s, let's not forget, you're going to have to take 1 million slashes, 1,000 cross checks. There's tons of fighting. There's guys that can out there that want to kill it. Kyper,
and you have to smoke cigarettes too.
You got to smoke cigarettes.
Hey.
You're not allowed to work out. You got to drink beer.
And
you go to the Rippers. You
I was going to say.
It's just, I think it's really unfair when we compare eras. But listen, it's to play in that era, man. There was a lot of fear and a lot of intimidation, which doesn't exist anymore. So not as easy as people think to take a guy and put him back in there and play, because Kyper knows it was a really, really mean league back then.
Vicious. So let me ask you, Yorkie, the Ottawa Senators went into Toronto last night, and if it wasn't for a pretty good goaltender for the Leafs, I think it could have been 6 or 7-0. And just wondering, how long have Ottawa fans waited to see a complete game like that last night?
So I agree. I thought Stolarz was great. He's been pretty good for the Leafs, hasn't he? I thought that was a sneaky good pickup, wasn't it? They were really good against Boston, but until these last couple games, it's been not inconsistent, but people are waiting for this team to kind of string together 2, 3, and it's still like I listened to Travis Green talk after the game. He's like, okay, yeah, we were good. We were good 2 games in a row, but the key is they got to keep doing it. And are they better? For sure, but you gotta, how this league works, fellas. You got to do it consistently, time in and time again, and we'll see. I think there's still a work in progress, but it's a great sign. It's a great sign. Toronto's got a great team. Boston's got a great team. But let's just see if this team can consistently keep bringing out efforts. And it was a good one, but they got to keep doing it.
Going into that game with Norris, Stützle, and Pinto in the lineup at the same time, this team plays to 106-point pace. I imagine that's gone up a little bit since. Is this the solution to their problems? Just having the 3 centers down the gut that they kind of imagined themselves as having?
Pinto really helps a lot. He's that right shot center, Bourne, and when he's not in the lineup, I think it's a big hole because he's a really smart 2-way player. Norris is an offensive guy. Stützle's an offensive guy. Pinto's more of that guy that's going to play, not that he's Patrice Bergeron or anything, but that's the type of game he needs to play. And I think that's just an important guy. And when he's out, they really miss him. But they got a couple other guys that I think have been really nice additions to kind of make them a deeper team. Michael Amadio is, man, I didn't know how good this guy was. He got off to a slow start, fellas, but he's sneaky smart. And Noah Gregor, he's out of the lot, guys. He's fast. He disrupts. Those 2 guys have been really, really good on the bottom part of the line. I mean, that's been pretty good too. So I find their bottom depth has really helped bring some consistency throughout that entire lineup.
The other thing that stood out for me last night, Yorkie, was the blue line and pace of play and what Jake Sanderson is kind of leaning towards as he continues to get comfortable at being the guy. How did this blue line kind of shape up with the decision to move Jacob Chychrun and where these 6 guys last night have settled in?
Yeah, so do you know who has been really good for these guys is Nick Jensen. Because for the last, 4 or 5 years, Thomas Chabot has been getting roasted by the fan base because he's been kind of the whipping boy. All of a sudden, Sanderson's been great. Like, let's start with Sanderson. He's been really, really good. I know, Bourne, you're a big fan of his.
Yeah.
Analytically, his defensive stats are unbelievable. And you want the eye test is good too. But I find since Jensen's come to town, it's given Thomas Chabot a guy he can play with, a guy he can depend on. He goes about his business. He's a good pro. We've all played with guys like that. But that move, it was good for Washington. They got an offensive guy in Chychrun, but Ottawa didn't need any more guys like that. They had, like, how many left shot power play guys do you need? They had Chychrun, they had Chabot, they had Sanderson, they had little Brandstrom there. They needed a defensive defenseman that somebody can, a stabilizer. And Jensen's just kind of really rounded out that top 4. So now you got Zub with Sanderson and you got Jensen with Chabot. So now you actually have a really solid top 4.
So that obviously helps out Linus Ullmark, who, looked pretty good last night. How would you assess his play of late? I guess on the season as a whole.
He's been really good, Morning.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys caught any of the Boston game.
Yeah.
So Ottawa shut out Boston. They didn't have a shot on goal in the entire third period, which is crazy, playing in Boston. I thought that was one of their best periods. And then in overtime, he had to make a save that it was one of those 2-on-1s. It was a great save, and Ottawa went right back and scored the other way. I really feel that save could have turned their fortunes around for what's going to happen because they won that game, carried over into Toronto. Before that, Ullmark, it's not that he was struggling. I just think he didn't get in that groove. He missed a lot of time. He was hurt. People were kind of starting to question him. And he said some comments after practice. I don't know if you guys caught it that one day. Somebody asked him where they thought his game was at. And I liked what he said. He's like, I don't know right now. And then people got really, what? You don't know? You're the goalie. If you don't know, who knows? And I think he was just screwing around with the fan base because the very next day was Boston. He went and he played great. So I like this guy. I like him because to me, he's a guy that's not afraid of pressure. And he's last couple of games, I think people are starting to see what he really truly is as a goalie. To me, he's one of the top goalies in the league.
A word you probably use more with skaters, but in this case, I'll use it with Ullmark. I find him a talented goaltender.
Yeah.
I think being a goalie comes easy to him, and at times I think his challenge might be more between the ears than anything else.
I think it's fair to say that, Kyper. I haven't seen him enough to make a total judgment on what I think he is between the ears. I'll say this. I think I don't know about you guys, but I think it takes a certain personality to play in a tough Canadian market or a tough NHL market. So, and you guys have seen it in Toronto, goalies that have come and gone. They've been good other places. They come to Toronto and they can't handle the pressure. Ottawa's the same thing. It's not Toronto, but it's still a Canadian market. I think he's got that personality to play in one of these markets where the noise isn't going to bother him because he's kind of one of those guys. It's just, I don't know what the right word is. Not that he's goofy. He's comfortable in his own skin. He's played in Buffalo, tough market. He's played in Boston, tough market. So to come to a Canadian market, no big deal. He's used to this.
So at the top of the lineup, the offense is going to come from, Tkachuk and Stützle for sure. Are you seeing steps from those guys? Like Stützle, I know, had been playing a little bit more physical earlier in the season. Not sure if that's kept up. And then the Brady Tkachuk thing was, is he going to fight less this year and focus on the hockey side of it? So where do you have the games of probably their two most offensive players?
Yeah, so I thought Brady was good, but I found his best game of the year. Not that he was bad. I just thought he took it to another level in that Boston game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he had 12 shots on net in that game. He was super physical, had the overtime winner. I just thought a lot of people were starting to wonder, the Senators had just went one game below 500. If they lose that game against Boston, you guys know how it starts in the Canadian market. People start talking, and we press on the panic button. I thought he showed a lot in that game and really stepped up. So his leadership's been great. And Stützle, to me, just looks like a more mature player this year. He's making way better decisions with the puck. He's deciding to use his skill at the right time. And he is, to your point, Bourne, he's playing more physical, too. Like, it's not often you see your most talented guy get on the forecheck and lay some big hits, but I think that helps him. It helps him, and then the rest of the guys in the team, when they see that, it's like, oh my God, Stützle's out there laying the body. So then the rest of the guys are like, okay, I better do that too. So he's both players have been really good, especially Tkachuk lately.
Well, you used the word mature, and you look at this team, and when you draft that high and have that much success early, like Brady Tkachuk got his money. Norris got his money. Stützle got his money. Unlike in our era, Yorkie, where you had to play 12 years and maybe you got rewarded in your last contract. But, you know, that can play into too much too soon for a group of guys like this. And maybe now that they're settling in, now it's the understanding that it's just not about me or making an all-star team or having some good stats, but I have to make our team better. And I kind of saw it a little bit last night.
Yeah, I did, Kyper, too. And it's a great point you make. That's how the league is now, right? Every team, it's like you're at the casino or you're buying a stock. And you're doing all your research. Okay, we're going to put all our money in on this stock. And oh boy, we hope he's good. We hope he's a leader. We hope he leads our team to the next level. And a lot of teams doesn't pan out, right? They just those players just never become. And then certain teams like McKinnon and you got Crosby and guys like that. But usually you have to get those guys really high. I just found with Tkachuk, I think it comes from the old man. We both played against Big Walt. He was driven. He was a competitor. You watch Matthew play, you watch Brady play. It's the same thing. Like, I think it's been driving Brady Tkachuk nuts that this team hasn't been in the playoffs yet since he's been here. So I think when you get your captain that driven, and he has been paid like Stützle, like the guys you mentioned, I think that's going to be contagious on the rest of the team. Because really, if you want to win in this league, your best player has to be the driving force. He's got to be the guy pulling them along. And I know Tkachuk has that type of personality. So I think he's going to do whatever it takes to try and drag the rest of the group with him.
So where do the Sens go from here, Yorkie? What do you expect to see from this hockey team this year? I said on the broadcast last night with David Amber, I said it's between Boston and Ottawa for that next playoff spot in the Atlantic. He was like, "Yeah, you're calling it after 16 games," and I think it is. Where do you see it going for the Sens?
Yeah, I always do that test, Bernie, where I go, okay, if someone's coming in, someone's coming out, right? Yep. So we look at the league right now, and you got Carolina, who's on a heater. New Jersey's a good team. The Rangers are a good team. Toronto's always in the playoffs. You got Florida. You got where the hell did the Washington Capitals come from? So you got 6 teams. So then who's coming out, right? Yeah. Tampa should be a playoff team. So I'm with you. Like, I watched that Boston game pretty closely. To me, they seem like a team in transition. Like, they're not the quickest team. Mm-hmm. They're not the most skilled team. I do like their defense. I like their goaltending. So I don't know. I see Ottawa as being a team in the mix down the stretch. Do I think they're going to be a playoff team? I predict them to be the 8th wild card, the 2nd wild card team. So that's where I think they're going to be. But a lot of things have to go right. They got to stay healthy. They got to get goaltending, special teams. So far, they're in a playoff spot right now. But I agree. If I see one team coming out based on what I've seen so far, I'd have to put money on Boston.
Hampus Lindholm, they say, is now out week to week, which probably tells me 4 to 6 weeks. If he may have broken something, I have no idea. Obviously, they're not sharing any information, but that's a significant loss for a guy that averages 21 minutes on that blue line in Boston.
He's a horse, Kyper. Like, I love Boston. I think Boston might have the best blue line in the East. You got, Lindholm's great back there. Brandon Carlo. I watched Boston play the other night. That guy is just, I don't know if there's a better guy in the league at boxing out and just playing defense. McAvoy's a real good player as well. The only guy I'm not sure about is the big guy they signed out of Vancouver last year. Zadorov, he puzzles me because I'm never sure what I'm going to get from him. I love his size. I love his frame.
You know what you're going to get from him in a contract year.
Yeah.
What you don't know is after he gets the contract signed, that's when you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, like I just find he makes a lot of bad decisions. But like he was great last year, but like you said, contract year. So Laurie was good last year in the playoffs for him. But again, right now let's see you do it over 82 games. So yeah, that's a tough one to swallow, Kyper. I think Lindholm's he's one of the better defensemen in the league. So that one's, if he's out for any extended period of time, that one's going to leave a mark.
Yeah, it sure is. Yorkie, great stuff as always, man. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
Anytime, fellas. I always love coming on the program.
Thanks, Yorkie. Appreciate it.
See you, boys.
His podcast is called Coming In Hot, the Sens podcast. That is Jason York. So the Ottawa Senators, after beating the Leafs, will play Philly, Carolina, and Edmonton their next 3 games. And I think you watch, Travis Green is going to just ride Allmark now.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it makes $8
You got him
million
going right now?
But Valley told us he doesn't think he loves that.
Wow.
Yeah, well, 8.25?
Doesn't matter. What's after the point? That's a lot.
Start earning your money, my friend.
Yeah.
World-class goaltending when you make that money, and you got to – do you agree? Boston, Ottawa?
Well, how hot is Boston's seat there for Montgomery? Because talking about, hearing him, like they have Dallas next. So let's say they lose their next game and they go to 7-9 and they're chasing Ottawa, looking up at Tampa.
Pasternak scored with under 2 minutes last night to give him a regulation win.
Yeah,
that was huge.
Big.
That's Team Canada's starting goalie there that hit him in the logo and found its way through in the third period.
Okay, we don't have to do this every time Bennington lets in a bad goal. Okay, we don't have to do this every time.
Okay, can we do the fact that he's 11th in save percentage among Canadian goalies with an .880?
Sure.
He's my pick, by the way, if I had to pick.
Oh,
Right. He's my pick, too.
It's like,
Barney sent that USA roster today, and I was like, oh.
Good Lord. Where is this thing? Let's look at this thing.
Anyways, Boston's in trouble without Lindholm.
Do you have four teams coming out of the Metro, including the Washington Capitals now? 11-4 after they beat Toronto is a lot more convincing to go to the playoffs.
The Metro,
New
Jersey,
10-5.
Carolina in, Washington, New York Rangers. Caps.
What do you think?
Well, yeah, I do think 4 teams are in. The Islanders are unfortunately not very good. So 4 teams there, and that would leave you 4 from the Atlantic, where you got Florida, Toronto, Tampa, probably, and then Boston or Ottawa.
I got to tell you, boys, I was last night watching the Sens. I'm like, oh crap! It might have finally happened here. Like, I've been making fun of them for a long time. For multiple years.
Last year was great, though, because people were saying that they were ready to, pass the Leafs, and you called them out early.
Yeah, I snuffed it out early last year, but watching them last night, I'm like, boy, they got a lot of talent up front.
I agree with Yorkie that, there are good signs. They're just going to have to – it's still early,
Yeah.
It's still early. It's kind of strange. Our league's kind of strange because it's early, but it's – not early enough for us to go, all right, we're 15 games into an 82-game season, and we can tell you 6-7 teams that ain't making the playoffs.
Well, it's tough in a 3-point league. If you dig a big enough hole, you're in serious trouble. And same with the Jets. It's like you go 15-1 to start. You're pretty good.
Yeah, okay. We had the Jets conversation. We don't have to every day be like, oh, the Jets again. When they lose is when we get to talk about them again because they just win. They win every night. It's like they just win.
Good teams.
They just beat everyone who's good. They beat they beat Rangers. They've beaten Colorado on this run. They beat who else did they beat? Dallas. They got the Florida coming up. They'll probably beat them twice too. They just beat everybody. So good for them. I don't know what else to say.
That Velarde goal there in front of Shesterkin where he's
down.
It's just like a tease.
I know.
Will they win the cup?
Here's my reason why I'm skeptical.
Uh-oh.
That top line doesn't, I think it's Garrett Hull who writes all this stuff. The top line does not control shot attempts, expected goals are goals, like a top line. And I kind of feel like if you can't outplay other top lines in the playoffs, it gets real hard.
Yeah, they're getting,
everything has to go perfectly. It's going perfectly now.
They're 15-1. They're getting caved in that top line. It's a real problem.
But on any given night, they got 3 top lines.
Sure. It's a joke how good they are.
The Carolina Hurricanes won the Cup in 06 or whatever. It can happen. You don't have to have the elite top line.
It's a joke how good they are right now.
But it is a joke. They are exceptional.
15-1 is
unreal.
insane.
Fourth line so good. Morrissey's
they're going to hit.
Hellebuck's the best in the world.
They're going to go through a rut. Everybody does.
Yeah, they'll go through a lot, lose 4 in a row and be 15-5.
Yes.
I actually think, they just put up a Vince Carter banner at Scotiabank Arena. I think a less embarrassing banner would be Leafs are the Jets' only loss. I think they should hang that at Scotiabank Arena. It's crazy they're the only team that's beat them.
That is.
They can't beat the Leafs. They lost, and the Jets have won 15 games, and they lost their Super Bowl against the Leafs. Anyway,
sorry to have done that.
Game time.
It's game time. Presented by Bet365. Visit the app's latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So, scouring the Bet365 website here. Well, app, website. I'm 100 years old, but the app. And I was looking for some Ovi stuff to see if they had any futures on Ovi. And Bet365 just happened to answer the call for me here. Ovechkin to score 895th career goal during this season. The yes is plus 120. No is minus 150. So a little bit of a favorite,
basically
obviously, for no.
Tossed here.
But the fact that we've gotten to this point, if you had done this before the season, it would have been, the numbers would have been, I was going to say plus 800 for yes, and then like a minus 400 no. Like, they think this could happen. They really are starting to believe that this could happen. And we're going to see it tonight.
What goal number does he need to do it? No. But this season, where would that fall? Would it fall 42,
like
44
or something more?
Let's
math it up for us.
He's got 10, does he not right now?
Let me just look at it here.
And I think
he has 863 goals.
Give us some math here.
I can't do math. I got to get my calculator out, boys.
So he's 31 back.
Okay, there.
So 41.
Yes.
He's not 41.
No, he's 31.
Yeah, you said 40.
He's got 10.
41
yes.
It will be the 41st goal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
He's on pace for 60.
I didn't get here doing math. Okay.
But we don't know how you got here. Okay.
Fair. So
forget the math.
So
any other way, we don't know.
Neither do I. But
he's on pace for 59.
Is he really?
He should get 40.
It's so funny. The shape of him is so not like a current athlete, right? Like he's just this like bowling ball build on skates.
Yeah.
He's built like Dr. Robotnik from Sonic the Hedgehog.
He just never gets hurt.
And this is with Dylan Strome, with all due respect, like no one had Dylan Strome and Ovi being an amazing 1-2 punch.
No.
And Pierre-Luc Dubois come in, and those are your top 2 centermen.
So Dylan Strome points per game, I'm going to give it to you for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
0.43, 0.70, 0.80, 0.82, up.
Yeah.
1.57.
Yeah, I know.
1.57.
It's off the charts.
Bit of a jump.
So he's like,
oh my God.
the last few years, what is he, 65, 70 points?
Yeah.
Now 130 points.
Yeah. Well, he's doing a Backstrom impression out there.
Nick Backstrom, the most consecutive OV goals he assisted on was 11. Strome has assisted on 11 straight OV goals.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right. And that was the Alexander Ovechkin edition of Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 18 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
See, you don't need math to screw up.
I can't. Listen, Kyper. Listen.
All right. Take it easy over there.
I'm easy.
All right, let's catch our breath with the break. And when we come back, Landon Ferraro, former NHLer, Sportsnet hockey analyst, will join us. We'll break down the Vancouver Canucks and the Pacific Division with him as well. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne. Here we go. Last block on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. This hour, Real Kyper and Bourne, is brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. Let's welcome in Landon Ferraro, former NHLer. Does a terrific job now for Sportsnet. Landon, great job last night on the telecast. Some pretty good vibes now after a good win at home, something that we haven't seen too often out of the Vancouver Canucks. And it just feels like now we're starting to see them pick up where they left off last season.
Everything's starting to kind of come back together here for them. It was an interesting start. Tkachuk came in, the year and a half prior and really started stressing a defensive zone. And this year they really wanted to build off that, especially with the transition. And, early in the season, it was not going well. They're giving up odd man rushes all over the place, and it just wasn't really clicking yet. But, in the last little bit here, they've seemed to, kind of find their game again and get back to, really skating, getting on the forecheck. That's how that team's, really built.
So watching that game last night, it seemed like Elias Pettersson kind of finding his mojo a little bit. Are things starting to happen in a positive direction for 40?
Yeah, the last few games, like the game in LA and then last night, he's really taken some steps. We were talking about it the other day, and it's one of those where he can have some success when pucks are bouncing to him, and that's one thing, and that's great. You get some points that way through the year, but over the last few, it's really been him kind of buying his confidence back and buying those chances. He's starting to put his body into things more, not just, he does that reverse hit so well, but, he's now, kind of turned himself a bit more. He's getting more stick on puck now. He's creating some turnovers and his offensive plays being able to follow it. But, I think the best example of him really kind of turning a corner was he absolutely ate a high stick at the end of the first period. And within a couple seconds, he's right back to net front, standing there taking a cross check. He's back into the game, and that's where the rest of it will come for him.
Landon, two-parter here. One is Brock Besser's out. We saw the hit. No one liked it. What are the thoughts moving forward on his progression to get back into the lineup? And I saw you last night breaking down Jonathan Lekkerimäki's debut at 14 and a half minutes, and where do you see his opportunity moving forward as well?
Yeah, well, starting with the Besser one, that's, regardless of team and what you're covering or you're a fan of, you never want to see hits like that. It was, completely avoidable. He chose to really kind of get up high on him instead of, he could have crushed him with a straight shoulder to the chest. It was there for it. He just, he missed his mark and went high on him. But, he's talking said he's day-to-day. My assumption out of that is he's past the first part of the protocol, and now he gets into, you have to keep moving day-to-day, progressing. So, hopefully he keeps going that way. Concussions are never an easy thing. But, with Lekkerimäki, it was fun to see him back at this level. He did so well in training camp where, he kind of extended his stay longer than most people thought he was going to. He got into 3 games and had 3 points and, started to showcase what he could do. But then he had an injury right at the start of the American League season. And I've done a couple of the color games down in Abbotsford now, watching the prospects. And, the first game I saw, he ends up with, an empty net tap in basically, but that was, I want to say, his 7th shot on net that night. He controlled the play all over it. He's calm with the puck, and you could see that in his game last night. It was first shift. He's a little timid on his first touch, and then right away, about 6 seconds later, he's the one on the breakout, coming in low and slow, gets it, and makes a move around Huberdeau. That takes confidence for a young kid to do it right away. His shot's lethal. It didn't really get to come out last night, but he made some really nice plays. He was calm under pressure. He was in the bumper position on the power play. I think it was, short of him scoring, I think it was a pretty perfect debut for him.
Yeah, no, not too shabby. One of the quotes I saw before the game was JT Miller said something to the effect of, we just need to forecheck. I know he can play and whatever. We need to get it on the forecheck, get the puck, and focus on that as a starter. How has Miller been? It feels like this team more than ever kind of goes as he goes. I know Quinn Hughes is the heart and soul there, but JT Miller up front seems to be, the forwards version of that. How has his season gone?
Yeah, I would say that's fair. Like, Quinn is the overall leader and kind of, the more calm demeanor and just his constant, consistent play, especially through this year, has been pretty amazing. But JT Miller is like the emotion of the team when things are going good or bad. Like, he's the one that you see, red faced on the bench. Like, he's giving all effort at all times. He's been dealing with something, through training camp. He only played the one preseason game. And, then he had another little kind of hiccup with, where he couldn't take faceoffs for a week. But once that passed, he's been very consistent. He had a couple games where people weren't overly happy at the end of that California road trip where he just wasn't quite the same. But you can't expect someone to be the heart and soul night in and night out when other players, just hadn't quite got their games up and running this season yet. Like, he's put so much on his back that, he's going to have a night or two that's going to drop off. But, he hears that stuff, and he came back with a pretty good vengeance last night. And just when he chooses to be that kind of bully on the ice and just make everything run, like, he takes over games in ways that, not a lot of players could do. He's so big and so strong, but, he makes really nice, touch passes. And when he finds Pius Suter, coming right off the bench and going through the slot, like, he waits, lets the play develop, and he just threads that little sauce pass in there. Like, he's making it work on all angles of the puck right now.
Landon, the Vancouver market's no different than any other one in Canada. They all sit around and look at wants and needs. And we saw a trade yesterday with the Pittsburgh Penguins. A lot of fans want to link Jimmy Rutherford back to Pittsburgh and start handpicking some players, including maybe a defenseman like Marcus Pettersson. Where do you see the wants and needs right now for Jimmy Rutherford as we get towards American Thanksgiving, when teams have a better understanding of what they have, or in Pittsburgh's case, what they don't have?
Yeah, I think right now the biggest thing, if you had to pick it, would be help on the back end. I'm expecting Myers and Soucy to kind of get their game back to where they were shutting down the top opponents pretty much every night last year. It hasn't gone incredibly smooth this year so far, but those are two players with proven track records that, they put in the work. It just hasn't quite shown up there. There's just been pieces of it, but, you don't know Demko's situation. It's, he's joined practice a few times now, so you're waiting for that. But Kevin Lankinen's been holding strong. And I mean, that's even underselling it. He's been amazing this year. It's just tough. They're in a tough situation where, Brock Besser's out of the lineup now. They're still waiting for Dakota Joshua. Hopefully they've said maybe Thursday, but in the incoming future here, like, they need to see what their team actually is with everyone back in, because they could try and find it, and this management group has shown that they like making moves early, and Rutherford's done that through his whole career. Before I was alive, he's been making moves in this league, so they'll want to get moving on it, but at the same time, on point percentage, they're sitting in first in the Pacific. They have a good record. They're getting results. They're just trying to fine tune right now.
You talk about making moves. It's crazy how good and important Hronek has been on that top pair with Quinn Hughes. So can Quinn Hughes win the Hart Trophy? I know he's won the Norris. He is in that conversation. Again this year, he just impacts the game so much. Connor McDavid missed a few games, whatever. Where do you see this? Because he feels to me like that tier of guy in the league at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's right there. The way that, like, what he brings to his team night in and night out is MVP worthy, really. Like, he's consistent. He's sitting at the top of the point leaders for his team again, and like it's to the point where you're sitting there trying to pick apart and find mistakes that he makes, because it just doesn't happen too often. It's tough. Pronger was the last defenseman to win. And
right.
Like, that was a pretty incredible season he put together. Does Quinn have he doesn't have the build Pronger has to take the physical element of it, but at the same time, He navigates out of traffic so well in his own end. He can break the puck out. He can skate it. It's gonna be tough for him, but I don't think there's a reason why he can't finish in the top 5, work his way into the top 3 of voting for sure.
And just a quick thought on Calgary as you watched them last night. And is there a world where they don't trade Rasmus Andersson or Kadri in the next, I don't know, 3-4 months, if not next year? What are your thoughts?
I don't see why they wouldn't at this point, right? Like, they get off to an amazing start. And then, since then, they've kind of come back to what that team is most likely going to be this year, where they're good enough to be in games. They can win some games for sure. They have some good pieces, but at the same time, they're not a contender. And the more that you just kind of hang around, you're just hurting yourself in the future. Not that we're talking tank or anything like that, but you can set yourself up and try and make that turnaround a little quicker with those two pieces in particular. Last night in the first period, they came out pretty good. They missed 2 really good chances where the Canucks scrambled back and took those kind of empty netters away. But without those, the Canucks ended up taking over the game, and they looked tired, they looked disjointed, and it was kind of, pretty tough to get things rolling back again. So, I don't see why in the future here coming up that those two aren't, at least heavily talked about, in their organization, and try and find out what that's worth.
Landon, last one for me. Just your thoughts on the Pacific Division at large. Last year, I should say this year, Vegas has been very good. Edmonton, slow start. Where do you have the Canucks fitting into that mix this season?
I mean, I see them right up at the top again, whether it's 1 or 2, but they have the team to do it. And when they play that more defensive style, which is funny to say because I think the Canucks are really built as a forechecking team, that they can really overwhelm and hem teams in the way that they have some size, they can get in and hold that, but they also have the quickness and playmaking ability to, kind of run teams on that side. But it all starts with Tocchet's defensive zone. When they play tight and together as a unit, they don't end up playing in their own end very long. So now the game's easy for them. And, as you go through the season, it gets harder and harder on the offensive side. Like, you need to make sure that your defensive end is tied up tight.
All right. I said last one, but I do want to know, how are you enjoying the broadcast side of things? You were just playing in 2023. How does it feel being on this side of the glass?
And after you're watching your dad do it all these years, why aren't you running for the hills?
Well, the issue there, I'll start with that one, is I mute him basically when I was still playing, especially when I was playing video games still, and he was the voice in there. I'd turn the commenters' volume right down, or if it was the big game, I'd mute him. I can't listen to him on the phone at home, and now I got to listen to him when I'm trying to get away too, just surrounding me. But no, I'm really enjoying it. It's a nice way that you stay. You're in the game still. You're watching everything. You feel somewhat connected. I coached as an assistant in the BC Junior League last year, and figured out, like, coaching even at 16 to 20, you're taking those results home. And before I knew it, I'm like, I don't want my life to be surrounded by 17-year-olds or doing the forecheck properly tonight.
Yeah.
It was a ton of fun, but that's a lot of stress. So I'll take this every day of the week right now. I'm enjoying it.
Well, welcome to the dark side, my friend.
Oh, thanks. I like the dark side. You don't have to get hit anymore.
That's the best part by far.
Exactly.
Thanks, Landon.
All right. Have a great night.
Yeah, have a good one, guys.
That is Landon Ferraro.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
I don't remember having an assistant coach in the BCHL that cared enough to be stressed out about the results. That's great. I'm kidding. Much love to Bob Dever if he's out there.
Quinn Hughes, MVP. I was looking at that season that Chris Pronger won the MVP. Mm-hmm. That was 99-2000 that he won it. The scoring leader that season in the NHL was Jaromir Jagr with 96 points.
Ooh, so scoring leader had 96 points.
It wasn't like a devastatingly high scoring leader. The leader in goals was Pavel Bure. You look at Chris Pronger's numbers that season, it goes to show how physically and defensively dominant he was to win MVP that year. Like, he had 14 goals, 48 assists.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good season.
It's like no one wants to be in his end.
How did he only have 92 PIMs? Like,
He's afraid. The refs were afraid of him,
they
too.
could call a penalty. So I think there are a lot of really great players in the NHL, offensive players, that are going to have overwhelming offensive seasons, particularly Nathan McKinnon, who's on a 2-point per game pace. I think it's really hard for a defenseman to win the MVP. I really he should win the Norris, maybe. He should be up there with that, with Cale Makar. It's just, to me, I don't know.
We're so number fixated, you know?
Yeah, but 2 points per game, but it's like if Nathan McKinnon gets 160 points, he's getting MVP. I'm telling you right now.
I get that Erik Karlsson was one of the most talented guys you'd ever see.
Maybe the worst Norris trophy handed out in
ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, he is so bad in his own zone.
Yeah.
And never was any good.
Never that interested.
I mean, Quinn Hughes, there's no comparison between
No.
the
I'm just saying, though, my focus on bringing him up is that we're just fixated on numbers.
For sure.
Have you ever seen a combination? And how many of guys have there been since Chris Pronger who were as big as him, as offensively talented, and mean? And I can give you one name since that comes to mind is Chara.
But he was I don't think of him as
players in general, though, like Lindros, Chara, Pronger. Like, we're talking.
Do you think Lindros was mean at all, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he just got hit a couple of times, and then you lose your confidence. But there was a window where
I take
Eric was.
Chara had some awesome years offensively.
Yeah,
like 16 goals, 11 17, 19.
I just remember the
14.
spinorama at the blue line. They used to bust out.
But to be that big and that mean.
Larry Robinson before Pronger was probably one of those type of guys.
Yeah.
But like very few, like even today when you think Hedman does not have that mean streak at all. To be that big and talented and mean.
God, Chara played 1,680 games, eh?
1,680 games. Now he just runs marathons.
No, he climbs mountains now.
He's still a +8 in his last year with the Islanders, 72 games, 14 points.
Just sign him. Lindholm's out for now, 4 to 6 weeks. Just bring him back.
He couldn't. He wouldn't be the worst guy in the league. That's for sure.
It'd be tough to get that tugboat turning again. I think once
he's running marathons, bud.
Yeah, fair enough.
He's running marathons.
How about a couple of fights last night?
Oh my God,
Dylan and Gadjevich.
How many punches were thrown?
So an ESPN Butchergrass said there was 37 punches from Gadjevich. 37. 20 of them had to hit him on the butt.
And his jersey was pulled over his head.
And he
couldn't see a thing.
Derek, do we have time? I put a clip in there, a Paul Maurice clip from last night on that fight. Do we have time for that?
Let's do it. We got time.
We got time. Paul Maurice on the fight. It's in their
The linesman didn't jump in too early and let two guys hammer away. So Yona's been injured for a while. I think it might be the best part. He's clearly 100% healthy. And I love when he's in the lineup.
There you go.
Love it. Dylan said after the game, he's like, this is what I need to do to stay in this league, and I'm willing to do it. He said, but sometimes I wish I was a power play guy.
He played 4 years for the Owen Center Attack, scored 46 goals 1 year.
Dylan did.
No, sorry, Gadjevich.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, good player.
This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne was brought to you by Bet365. 5 games on tap tonight, including Toronto and Washington, Detroit and Pittsburgh. Someone needs a win there.
The Poo-Poo Bowl.
All right. Thanks to Landon. Thanks to Landon Ferraro and Jason York, Craig Simpson in our Leaf Hour. Enjoy your games. We're back tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Real Kyper and Bourne.